Yang mulia, saya nyatakan pertemuan sesi kedua ini dibuka kembali. Semoga Yang Mulia dapat menikmati makan siang yang kami sajikan tadi. Sekarang kita mulai berdiskusi mengenai isu kesehatan. Saya ingin mengawali dengan sambutan pembuka saya. Para pemimpin G20, dunia kita semakin pulih dari pandemi COVID-19. Namun, kita tidak boleh lengah. Darurat kesehatan berikutnya dapat muncul kapan saja. Kali ini dunia harus lebih siap. Kesiapsiagaan kita akan menyelamatkan nyawa dan perekonomian kita. G20 harus mengambil langkah-langkah nyata dan segera. Pertama, arsitektur kesehatan global harus diperkuat. Kita perlu WHO yang lebih kuat dan bertaring. Solidaritas dan keadilan harus menjadi ruh arsitektur kesehatan global. G20 telah berhasil membentuk Pandemic Fund. Ini harus diikuti dengan penambahan kontribusi pendanaan agar berfungsi secara optimal. Saya mengajak semua pihak berkontribusi. Indonesia telah memberikan komitmen 50 juta dolar. G20 juga harus ikut mengawal proses pembentukan traktat pandemi. Ini penting untuk memperkuat kesiapsiagaan di tingkat nasional, kawasan, dan global. Kedua, negara berkembang harus diberdayakan sebagai bagian dari solusi. Kesenjangan kapasitas kesehatan tidak dapat dibiarkan. Negara berkembang perlu kemitraan yang memberdayakan. Negara berkembang harus menjadi bagian rantai pasok kesehatan global, termasuk pusat manufaktur dan riset. Ini hanya bisa terjadi jika investasi industri kesehatan ditingkatkan, kerjasama riset dan transfer teknologi diperkuat, dan akses bahan baku produksi untuk negara berkembang diperluas. Selain itu, TRIPS waiver harus diperluas pada semua solusi kesehatan, termasuk diagnostik dan terapeutik. WHO juga harus merealisasikan komitmennya terkait hubs dan spokes solusi kesehatan. Yang mulia, dunia tidak boleh mengulang kesalahan saat pandemi COVID-19. Ini adalah pelajaran berharga untuk menyiapkan dunia dari darurat kesehatan global. Never again harus menjadi mantra kita bersama. Saya menantikan pandangan dan kontribusi yang mulia bagi penguatan arsitektur kesehatan dunia. Demikian pengantar dari saya. Terima kasih. Yang mulia, selanjutnya kita akan mulai dengan diskusi tertutup. Oleh karena itu, dengan hormat, saya mohon awak media untuk meninggalkan ruangan pertemuan. Terima kasih. Saya ingin menyatakan kita siap menerima tamu-tamu G20.
afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bamboo Dome. We would like to invite you to take your seats. And to all media officers, please leave the room to allow the luncheon to be started. Once again, we would like to invite all heads of delegations to be seated, and to all media officers, securities, and liaison officers to please leave the room. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we would like to invite all heads of delegations to please take your seats, and to all securities, liaison officers, and media officers to please leave the room to allow the luncheon to be started. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished G20 leaders, welcome to this luncheon. At this lunch, I have two guests that I wish to invite to speak. First, President of the IOC, Mr. Thomas Bach, and the second, President of FIFA, Mr. Gianni Infantino. Now I would like to invite Mr. Thomas Bach to deliver his speech. The floor is yours, Mr. Bach.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Joko Widodo, President of the Republic of Indonesia and Chair of the G20 Summit. Your Excellencies, please allow me first of all to thank our gracious host, President Joko Widodo, for the great honor to be able to address you, the world leaders. I applaud him for choosing its motto for this summit, Recover Together, Recover Stronger, which perfectly resonates with our new Olympic motto, Faster, Higher, Stronger, Together. The global pandemic made it crystal clear how important sport is for our physical and mental health. Sport can save lives. This is why the International Olympic Committee is working closely with the World Health Organization to promote healthy and resilient societies through sport. Olympic athletes are central to this as role models for healthy lifestyles. The excellent cooperation with the governments of Japan and China and our close partnership with the WHO were crucial for us to successfully and safely organize 2 editions of the Olympic and Paralympic Games during the height of the pandemic. During these dark times, the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 and the Olympic Winter Games Beijing 2022 gave so many people around the world hope and optimism. The countless messages of appreciation from all walks of life are summed up in an excellent way by WHO Director General Dr. Tedros, who said, "The Olympic Games bring the whole world together in solidarity and in a celebration of hope." We can only bring the whole world together if the athletes from all 206 national Olympic committees can participate at the Olympic Games. This is what the Olympic and Paralympic Games are about. The whole world together in peaceful competition without any discrimination whatsoever. For Tokyo 2020 and Beijing 2022, the challenge to bring the whole world together was the pandemic. Today, the challenge for the Olympic Games are consequences of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Russia's violation of the Olympic Charter by violating the Olympic Truce Resolution adopted unanimously by the United Nations General Assembly. At the same time, we are supporting the athletes and members of the Ukrainian Olympic Committee everywhere with all our solidarity. But in contrast to the far too many other wars and conflicts in our world, regarding this war, some governments started to decide which athletes would be allowed to participate in international sports competitions and which athletes not. They did, and they do so, purely on political grounds. They want to decide which athlete can now qualify and finally compete at the Olympic Games Paris 2024. If sport becomes, in this way, just another tool to achieve political goals, international sport will fall apart. Because it is the very essence of international sport that decisions about participation and results of athletes have to be based purely on the sporting merit of an athlete. If, however, this kind of politicization of sport becomes the norm, it will be impossible for sport to be such a unifying force. We need the participation of all athletes who accept the rules, even and especially if their countries are in confrontation or at war. A competition between athletes from only like-minded states is not a credible symbol of peace. In this age of division, our role is clear: to unite the world and not to deepen divisions. To live up to this unifying mission, the IOC must be politically neutral. To allow future hosts to welcome the best athletes of the entire world, regardless of political conflicts, I appeal to you, the world leaders, to support this political neutrality. France, Italy, the United States of America, and Australia are the next Olympic hosts. In at least 8 G20 countries, there is already now declared interest in hosting future Olympic and Paralympic Games. This is why I humbly ask you, give us this opportunity to contribute to peace and understanding through sport. Support the autonomy of sport as you have done so previously in so many UN resolutions and declarations. There are not many occasions when all humankind can set aside our differences and come together in peace. As the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, the Olympic spirit is the most important symbol of peace in today's world. Let us not abandon this precious unifying mission of the Olympic and Paralympic Games in a time when the world needs more solidarity and peace. As you, the G20 leaders, are shaping the new post-pandemic world order, I am very grateful that I can personally ask you today to support this unifying mission of the Olympic Games, and I appeal to you to express the support in a G20 statement as you deem appropriate. In this Olympic spirit of solidarity and peace, I thank you for your kind consideration. I reiterate the call to you, the world leaders, that I made already at the opening and closing ceremonies of the Olympic Winter Games 2022. Give peace a chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas Bach. Our second speaker is Mr. Gianni Infantino, the President of FIFA. Mr. Infantino, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, dear President Widodo. Thank you for hosting us in your beautiful, beautiful country. Dear President, dear heads of states and governments, dear delegates, dear friends, I want to speak to you about the one topic which I believe all of you here will agree on. Football. Football is truly unique, and football unites the world. FIFA is an organization of 211 countries, more than the United Nations, and we bring football to the world. Last month we were in India for the girls under-17 World Cup, which Spain won. Next year we will return to Indonesia for the boys under-20 World Cup. And we unite the world through football. We encourage countries to come together to co-host events and World Cups. As such, next year we will be in Australia and New Zealand for the Women's World Cup. And then Canada, Mexico, and United States for the Men's World Cup in 2026. But coming to the present, in 5 days' time, the 2022 FIFA World Cup will kick off in Qatar. It is the first major tournament after the pandemic. It is the first time it will be played in the Middle East as well. And I can assure you that Qatar and FIFA have prepared everything to ensure everyone is welcome for a big celebration, and you are obviously all most welcome. And it must be said as well that Qatar made significant reforms over the last few years, also thanks to the World Cup. As a consequence of that, for example, hundreds of thousands of workers enjoy better conditions than some years ago. So 3 million fans will fill the stadiums, and 5 billion people, more than half of the world population, will watch the games on TV. Entire countries will come to a standstill. Now, dear leaders, you are, of course, representing the largest economies in the world. So let me say one word about economics and football. Because you might not know that the global football GDP is almost $300 billion US. And whilst 90% of the fan base of football is outside of Europe, 70% of this global football GDP is produced within Europe. So just imagine the potential for the global economy if the rest of the world would produce even half of what Europe generates in relative terms, and its impact on their respective GDPs all over the world. This would add another 200 or 300 billion in global football GDP. It would add 3 to 4 million jobs for a global football GDP of $500 billion or more US, and this would contribute certainly to narrowing the income gap and growing global wealth, which are yours and also FIFA's priorities. But of course, football is, as you all know, much more than just an economy. Football is also much more than just a sport. It has a huge social impact. You all know what football means to your people, to your countries. It is about passion, it is about inclusion, it is about tolerance, it is about non-discrimination, and it is about education. Football is an investment in our children for our future. And football, of course, as sports, unites the world. And because football unites the World Cup is an occasion to bring people together in peace, enjoy something deeply needed in the turbulent times we live in. 7 months ago in Doha, at the occasion of the World Cup draw, when the world was watching, I made a plea for peace on behalf of the global football community. Today, 5 days before the start of that World Cup, I reiterate that plea. Football is a force for good. Of course, we are not naive to believe that football can solve the world's problems. For this, you are there. We know that our main focus as a sports organization is and should be sports. But because football unites the world, this particular World Cup, with 5 billion people watching it, can be the trigger for a positive gesture, for a sign or a message of hope. Dear leaders, Russia hosted the last World Cup in 2018. Ukraine is bidding to host the World Cup in 2030. Maybe that the current World Cup starting in 5 days can really be that positive trigger. So my plea to all of you is to think on a temporary ceasefire for 1 month for the duration of the World Cup, or at least the implementation of some humanitarian corridors or anything that could lead to the resumption of dialogue as a first step to peace. You are the world leaders. You have the ability to influence the course of history. Football and the World Cup are offering you and the world a unique platform of unity and peace all over the world. So let's take this opportunity to do everything we can to start putting an end to all conflicts. Thank you very much. And this is the official ball of the World Cup. Every one of you will receive such a ball with your name on it, so make sure you get it. And in the meantime, if you don't mind, I would like to ask everyone to sign maybe this particular ball, and then together with President Widodo, we can decide what we do with it. Thank you for your attention, and have a great day, and thank you for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Infantino. Sports is very important in our life. Through sports, not only we become healthy, we also feel happier. I must stop here. Well, enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
Good. You can start from here to sign it.
Saya ingin menyatakan kita siap menerima tamu-tamu G20. saya ingin menyatakan kita siap menerima tamu-tamu G20.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to commence our second session. We would like to kindly request all heads of delegations to please take your seat. We kindly ask all security and liaison officers to leave the room. For all media officers, please stay at the designated areas. Thank you. Once again, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The second working session will commence shortly. We kindly ask all security and liaison officers to leave the room. For all media officers, please stay at the designated areas. Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The second working session will commence shortly. We kindly ask all security and liaison officers to leave the room. For all media officers, please stay at the designated areas. Thank you.
Yang mulia, saya nyatakan pertemuan sesi kedua ini dibuka kembali. Semoga Yang Mulia dapat menikmati makan siang yang kami sajikan tadi. Sekarang kita mulai berdiskusi mengenai isu kesehatan. Saya ingin mengawali dengan sambutan pembuka saya. Para pemimpin G20, dunia kita semakin pulih dari pandemi COVID-19. Namun, kita tidak boleh lengah. Darurat kesehatan berikutnya dapat muncul kapan saja. Kali ini dunia harus lebih siap. Kesiapsiagaan kita akan menyelamatkan nyawa dan perekonomian kita. G20 harus mengambil langkah-langkah nyata dan segera. Pertama, arsitektur kesehatan global harus diperkuat. Kita perlu WHO yang lebih kuat dan bertaring. Solidaritas dan keadilan harus menjadi ruh arsitektur kesehatan global. G20 telah berhasil membentuk Pandemic Fund. Ini harus diikuti dengan penambahan kontribusi pendanaan agar berfungsi secara optimal. Saya mengajak semua pihak berkontribusi. Indonesia telah memberikan komitmen 50 juta dolar. G20 juga harus ikut mengawal proses pembentukan traktat pandemi. Ini penting untuk memperkuat kesiapsiagaan di tingkat nasional, kawasan, dan global. Kedua, negara berkembang harus diberdayakan sebagai bagian dari solusi. Kesenjangan kapasitas kesehatan tidak dapat dibiarkan. Negara berkembang perlu kemitraan yang memberdayakan. Negara berkembang harus menjadi bagian rantai pasok kesehatan global, termasuk pusat manufaktur dan riset. Ini hanya bisa terjadi jika investasi industri kesehatan ditingkatkan, kerjasama riset dan transfer teknologi diperkuat, dan akses bahan baku produksi untuk negara berkembang diperluas. Selain itu, TRIPS waiver harus diperluas pada semua solusi kesehatan, termasuk diagnostik dan terapeutik. WHO juga harus merealisasikan komitmennya terkait hubs dan spokes solusi kesehatan. Yang mulia, dunia tidak boleh mengulang kesalahan saat pandemi COVID-19. Ini adalah pelajaran berharga untuk menyiapkan dunia dari darurat kesehatan global. Never again harus menjadi mantra kita bersama. Saya menantikan pandangan dan kontribusi yang mulia bagi penguatan arsitektur kesehatan dunia. Demikian pengantar dari saya. Terima kasih. Yang mulia, selanjutnya kita akan mulai dengan diskusi tertutup. Oleh karena itu, dengan hormat, saya mohon awak media untuk meninggalkan ruangan pertemuan. Terima kasih. Saya ingin menyatakan kita siap menerima tamu-tamu G20.
later on.
saya ingin menyatakan kita siap menerima tamu-tamu G20.
Who do I recognize next? I was introducing you. I guess I'm starting. Gotcha. Sure. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We haven't heard enough from everybody, so we're going to go another 5 hours. I want to welcome you all. I'm going to make some brief opening comments, then yield to my friend who's been doing not much today, except doing this all day, and then to, as much as I like to go to President von der Leyen, who I like better than anybody here, but so we're going to begin now. Folks, good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for being here. You've done a tremendous job, by the way, for really. You've done a great job. And focusing on our efforts of the G20. Do I have this on? Yes. The G20 toward restoring and recovering together and recovering stronger. As we were saying outside, we were having a photograph taken. I'm convinced we're going to come out of this crisis we've been through in the pandemic and other things stronger than we went in. Every time we engage, we get better. And today we're focused on investing together and investing stronger than we have in the past. In June, I joined my fellow G7 leaders to officially launch the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, with the collective goal of mobilizing $600 billion in 5 years for quality, sustainability, and innovative infrastructure and investments in low and middle-income countries. As I've spoken with my Canadian friends, this is something that we have an obligation to do, it seems to me, to deal with those nations that are not the primary cause of many of our problems, but are now left with a great deal of difficulty. I want to emphasize the word investments. Investments that are driven by local needs, development with our partners, and delivering real results to improve the lives of all of our people. Through the partnership, we've already launched an array of new projects with countries across the G20 and beyond, collaborating in new ways on climate, energy security, and digital connectivity, health infrastructure, and gender equity and gender equality. And let me give you some examples of the work we've been doing. First, in climate and on energy security. As we accelerate our investment and speed transition to clean energy future to meet the climate crisis head-on, we have to make sure that they benefit people everywhere, not just in the larger countries. And that's why we're proud to partner with Indonesia and Japan under both our colleagues, an unflagging leadership from both of them, together with a broad coalition of countries to create the Just Energy Transition Partnership. Not just like soon, but to be just energy partnership. Also critical to this effort has been the work of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, co-chaired by my friend and champion of global climate efforts, Mike Bloomberg. Together, we hope to mobilize, we're mobilizing $20 billion to support Indonesia's efforts to reduce emissions and expand renewable energy, and support workers in the who are most affected by the transition away from coal, and that can be difficult. That $20 billion from partner governments and some of the world's leading financial institutions will accelerate an ambitious energy transition that has a global impact. We also plan to invest $798 million through the new Millennium Challenge Corporation with Indonesia, which will build a climate-resilient transportation and support Indonesia's development goals. And around the world, we're also investing in critical minerals, supply chains, and technology needed for clean energy transition. For example, in Honduras, the Export-Import Bank is financing one of the largest ever solar projects in the Americas. In Brazil, the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation has invested $30 million in equity in TechMet Limited, mining and nickel, to mine nickel and cobalt, two of the minerals most needed to power electric vehicles and other clean energy technologies. Together, these investments are going to create jobs in the communities where this mining takes place, and they support and help curb climate change and global climate change. Next, we're investing in digital connectivity. As a matter of fact, when I was elected president, we invested in an infrastructure project at home because we found out, we focused on this, and we found out a significant portion of the people in my country, as wealthy as we've been, did not have access to the internet. So we came up with $1.2 billion in infrastructure to make sure every single community, rural communities and others. Well, that's the case all around the world. And so this digital connectivity, we're teaming up with a range of partners to ensure people have access to the internet, affordable access to the internet, and other technologies. These technologies are required to participate in today's economies. And for example, we're working together with Japan and Australia to upgrade networks in Papua New Guinea and across the Pacific, improving security, performance, and access to digital services. And through the United States Digital Investment Blended Finance Program, we're working with Kenya, partner C-Squared, to establish a nationwide fiber network in Liberia that's going to help connect 1 million Liberians to the web. And the next is health infrastructure. We've seen over the last few years strengthening health security must be a priority for all of us. We just went through a long discussion on that. That's why we're continuing to support vaccine manufacturing in Africa and Asia and investing $15 million to the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation in India's health infrastructure, and just a few examples. And finally, gender equity and gender equality. When we invest in equal opportunity for women, we can deliver greater prosperity for everyone, And so we're working with the G7 nations and the World Bank to launch the Invest in Child Care initiative to help families get children they need, get the child care they need, and help women get the opportunities they deserve to be able to be in the workforce. We're already starting to see returns. For example, the initiative has funded a project in Somalia, and that will help nearly 300,000 women across the country to build literacy and leadership skills. These are just some of the projects where our countries are stepping up to deliver impact investments. And we're at an inflection point. Investments we make today will have far-reaching impacts on the world for generations to come. If we don't make them, they'll also have far-reaching impacts if we don't make these investments. And so creating real opportunity, greater equality, and more secure, healthy, and prosperous world is what we're all about. Moving forward, we have to continue to invest together and invest stronger. And we welcome all who share this vision to join this partnership. I want to thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to a man we haven't heard from for the last few days. We don't know. It's all yours, Chicago.
Terima kasih Presiden Biden atas inisiatif penyelenggaraan side event Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, PGII. Indonesia selalu mendukung penguatan pembangunan infrastruktur di negara-negara berkembang. Krisis multidimensional yang tengah dihadapi dunia membawa tantangan tersendiri bagi pembangunan infrastruktur di negara berkembang, termasuk melalui penyusutan ruang fiskal. Ada beberapa hal yang perlu diperhatikan PGII dalam mendukung pembangunan infrastruktur di negara berkembang. Pertama, dukungan harus country driven, berdasarkan kebutuhan real negara tujuan. Konsultasi dan dialog dengan negara penerima harus menjadi pedoman utama. Pembangunan infrastruktur perlu memberdayakan masyarakat dan ekonomi setempat agar memiliki rasa kepemilikan yang tinggi, disertai dukungan bagi negara berkembang untuk membangun kapasitas dan kemampuan mandiri. Dengan demikian, negara berkembang dapat lebih tangguh menghadapi tantangan global di masa mendatang. Sebagai contoh, Indonesia tengah mendorong pemerataan pembangunan melalui pemindahan ibu kota ke Nusantara. Ini akan membuka peluang investasi sebesar 20,8 miliar dolar di berbagai sektor infrastruktur. Kedua, upaya kita harus didasarkan paradigma kolaborasi. Pelibatan lebih banyak pemangku kepentingan, termasuk sektor swasta, akan membawa manfaat nyata. Saya percaya inisiatif seperti PGII akan semakin bermanfaat jika melibatkan sebanyak-banyaknya negara di dunia. Ketiga, PGII harus menghasilkan dukungan pembangunan berkelanjutan, termasuk lewat pembangunan hijau dan transisi energi. Negara berkembang paling rentan terhadap tantangan pembangunan berkelanjutan dan perubahan iklim. Presidensi G20 Indonesia telah mendorong kerjasama nyata di bidang sustainable infrastructure dan pendanaan pembangunan. Indonesia sendiri juga bersungguh-sungguh mengembangkan industri hijau termasuk ekosistem industri mobil listrik sebagaimana yang mulia saksikan langsung di KTT Bali ini. Yang mulia, Indonesia siap mendukung inisiatif PGII. Harapan saya PGII dapat memperkuat hasil yang telah dicapai di G20. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, President Biden, President Widodo. We have discussed throughout this day that we live in a truly volatile global economy with obviously changing climate. And on top, in addition, we see that Russia's war is rubbing salt in the wound of the economic recovery of COVID-19. So this mixture made us completely reevaluate our energy, our trade, and our security relationships. What is the situation for the European Union? We have decided to diversify completely away from the Russian fossil fuels. We have understood and learned our lesson that it was an unhealthy dependency, unsustainable, and we want reliable and forward-looking connections. And this is why we are launching the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, PGII. We are joining forces to give our partners a powerful and a positive offer. You have said, dear Joe, the world needs a positive investment boost. This is what it's all about. To help build the global infrastructure that we all need for sustainable growth. So invest in renewable energy, in transport corridors, in digital connections that people can trust. From the European side, the contribution is the so-called Global Gateway. It's our 300 billion euros investment program for abroad for the next 5 years, combined with the wish to harness the power and the knowledge of the private sector. And we're deeply convinced that this will be a game changer for two reasons. First of all, Global Gateway, or PGII, is not just investing massively in the state-of-the-art infrastructure, but is also investing in the local capacities of our partners. This is crucial. We want to strengthen our shared resilience. We have been discussing in the last session the vaccine manufacturing example. What is special about it? If we take the example from the European Union, there is a European-American company that is sharing its mRNA technology and training local professionals. So it's about skills. Then we have African and European financial institutions that are providing the investment. And we have our regulatory medicines agency that are sharing their know-how. No single actor in this combination could have done this alone, but together we're able really to deliver on the ground. And my second point is that the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment is working because it is demand-driven. We see an enormously rising demand for renewable energy, and this is a good example. As I said, Europe has decided to diversify completely away from the Russian fossil fuels, and we want to leapfrog to clean energy. We need this clean energy, not only to have it homegrown, but also to import it. Our partners in the global south have an abundance of clean energy potential and resources. So Europe could turn into the world's largest market for their energy exports. What is necessary is investment and infrastructure. And that's where we have to team up. So some examples, at COP27 we've signed hydrogen partnerships with Namibia, Egypt and Kazakhstan. Or with Namibia, we're building transport corridors from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic port of Walvis Bay. And there's much more to be done. I'm very happy that today we launch the Just Energy Transition Partnership with Indonesia, a big step forward. Team Europe will contribute over 1 billion euros. It is the roadmap for the country's low-carbon future, and we are investing in developing geothermal energy. Or we are engaged in talks with India for renewable hydrogen, with Chile for critical raw materials. Or we are launching a digital alliance in Latin America to build a fiber optic cables and satellite connectivity. Many of these examples show exactly the direction of travel and the shared interest that we do have. So we are ready to contribute. If we align our investment strategies and crowd in the private sector, that is crucial. I think we can maximize our joint impact. Let's bundle our forces and make a positive difference in investment globally. Now I have the pleasure to invite the heads of state to deliver their remarks, and I hand over the floor to Japan's Prime Minister Kishida. Fumio, you have the floor.
はい、ありがとうございます。まずこのイベントの開催を歓迎いたします。インフラは国の発展の基盤です。グローバルインフラ投資パートナーシップが進める質の高いインフラ投資は、インドネシアが掲げる G20 のテーマ。
Kami akan menjamu Yang Mulia dan Bapak Ibu di hamparan pantai Bali yang indah, yang menginspirasi gagasan-gagasan inovatif untuk produktivitas G20 ke depan. Sampai bertemu di Indonesia, terima kasih.